Ever feel kind of stuck?
Yeah.
Like in this weird in-between zone, economically speaking. Work hard, but not quite seeing the full benefits.
Yeah.
You might be bumping up against what's called, get this, the petite bourgeoisie dilemma.
Ooh, that's a mouthful.
It is, right?
Right.
Don't worry, we're going to break it all down today in our deep dive.
Love it.
Our main source, an audio clip called What is Petite Bourgeoisie?
Perfect place to start.
So before we get all fancy pants with the French terms,
Right.
let's do a quick level set back to basics.
Yeah, always good.
Proletariat, bourgeoisie.
Yeah.
Ring any bells?
Workers and the owners, classic Marxist stuff.
Exactly. Proletariat, folks working for wages, selling their labor.
Yep.
Bourgeoisie, they're the ones owning the means of production, factories, land, the whole shebang.
The big she's.
So where does this petite bourgeoisie fit in?
Okay, so picture this.
Okay.
A spectrum.
Got it.
One end, the workers, right? Other end, the owners. That murky, kind of fascinating middle ground.
Yeah.
That's where our petite bourgeoisie hangs out.
Okay, so they're like the in-betweeners.
Exactly. Worker owners, you could say.
Interesting.
Think small business owners, people who are both working and profiting from their labor.
Okay.
The source actually gives a super clear example.
Lay on me.
A farmer who owns and works his own land pockets the profits.
So he's not just the boss.
Yep.
He's also down in the dirt, getting his hands dirty.
Literally. That's your classic petite bourgeoisie right there.
Gotcha. So they're this hybrid class, own the business, but also the ones busting their butts in it.
Precisely. But here's where it gets even more interesting.
Oh.
The concept goes beyond just who physically owns the business.
Okay.
It's also about, get this, a mindset.
A mindset.
Someone could be a worker, technically, part of the proletariat, but if they're vibing more with the interests and ideas of the bourgeoisie,
Yeah.
there you have it.
The petite bourgeoisie mindset.
Ding, ding, ding.
So it's not just about cold, hard cash, but like where your head's at.
Yeah.
Even if, and maybe this is a stretch, it might not be in your best interest long term.
Ooh, good point.
All right.
Definitely food for thought.
Now, the source uses a real interesting example to illustrate this whole mindset thing.
Oh, I love a good example.
They talk about a farmer, an employee, and then a contractor.
Classic setup.
Break that down for me. How do these three fit into this whole petite bourgeoisie puzzle?
Okay, so you've got the farmer, right? He's our poster child for the traditional idea of the petite bourgeoisie. Owns the farm, works the farm, directly benefits from all his hard work.
Makes sense.
Then you've got the employee, the farmhand, working for a wage, totally reliant on the farmer for his income.
The classic working man.
Exactly. That's your proletariat.
Got it. So where does Mr. Contractor fit in?
Now, that's where things get a little, shall we say, nuanced.
I knew there was a twist.
He owns his labor in a way, sets his own terms,
Independent.
and, crucially, he's not beholden to the farmer the same way the farmhand is. So he's got a little sprinkle of petite bourgeoisie, but it's different.
Okay. Yeah, he's not the owner of the whole farm.
Nope, and that's the key.
He's in between the farmhand and the farmer.
Exactly. More autonomous than the employee, but not calling all the shots like the farmer.
So our contractor friend really highlights the fact that this ain't always black and white, huh?
Not at all. It's a spectrum, remember? And those nuances, they matter.
Yeah, you can't just slap a label on someone based on their job title and think you've got them figured out.
No way. It's more about the dynamics at play.
So it sounds like control is a big piece of this puzzle. How much control you have over your work, your income, even your future.
Right. You nailed it. And this is where that mindset piece we talked about, it becomes super critical.
Okay, bring it back to the mindset.
Let's go back to our farmhand for a sec.
All right, back to the farm.
Let's say he decides, you know what? I deserve a raise.
Bold move.
He works up the courage, asks the farmer. Farmer says nope. And the farmhand just accepts it. No fight. Maybe even starts thinking, well, maybe I wasn't worth more after all.
Ah, man, that's tough.
Right. And you know what? I've seen that play out in real life so many times.
I was going to say, that's not just some made-up farm story. That's real life.
Oh, it's everywhere. People accepting less than they deserve, almost internalizing this idea that they're not worthy of more.
It's heartbreaking, really.
It is. And it's the petite bourgeoisie mindset in action, siding with the interests of the owner, even if it's at their own expense.
Wow. Yeah, you don't even realize it's happening.
It's subtle, but powerful. And it goes way beyond just one farmhand.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
What happens when a whole bunch of people start thinking this way?
Well, that's when things get really interesting. It can really throw a wrench in the gears of, social movements and any kind of push for economic change.
Right, because if a big chunk of folks are siding with the wealthy, even if it's shooting themselves in the foot, it's going to be tough to change anything.
Exactly. It's like an uphill battle. And our source specifically mentions how this whole dynamic can really put the brakes on socialist movements.
Makes sense.
Think about it. If everyone's clinging to this idea of upward mobility, I'm going to be a big shot someday.
The American dream, the whole 9 yards.
They might not be so keen on policies that, say, promote equality or challenge the whole concentration of wealth thing.
Yeah, it's like they're buying into a system that might not actually be designed to benefit them in the long run.
Right, and that's what makes this concept so relevant today, even though it's got these deep roots in Marxist theory.
Kind of timeless, huh?
Totally. It helps us understand why some social changes are just, so darn difficult.
Yeah, like why things don't just change overnight.
It shines a light on the complexities of class and power, but in a way that goes beyond just the dollars and cents.
So are you saying even if someone isn't a card-carrying Marxist, this whole petite bourgeoisie thing can still be useful? Like a tool for understanding the world?
100%. Think of it like a new lens to view current events, political debates, even what's going on at your workplace.
Ah, okay. So it's like a decoder ring for all the craziness.
Exactly. It helps you spot the subtle ways class and ideology are shaping people's actions, even their beliefs.
Powerful stuff.
So how does this all play out in our modern world? The source talks about farms and all, but how does this translate to, iPhones and self-driving cars?
Right. Things have changed a bit since Marx was around.
Oh, for sure. And the source actually touches on this too. They point out that these days, petite bourgeoisie, it's less about a rigid economic category and more of a descriptor of a mindset.
So less about your job title, more about your outlook.
You got it. It's less about what you do and more about what you believe, your attitudes, your whole approach to the world.
So it's less about your income bracket and more about how you see yourself, your place in the world, how you think things should work.
Precisely. And that's where it gets really, really nuanced.
Okay, give me an example. Paint me a picture.
Okay, imagine this. Someone working a 9 to 5, maybe even struggling to make ends meet.
Living paycheck to paycheck.
But they're totally against, wealth redistribution or stronger worker protections.
Interesting.
They believe that success is all about individual effort, pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of thinking.
If I can do it, anyone can.
And that any kind of government help is an attack on personal freedom.
Ah, okay. So they might not be wealthy themselves, but they're aligning themselves with, the wealthy ideology.
Bingo. And maybe even voting against policies that could actually help them out.
Wow, yeah, shooting themselves in the foot, basically.
It happens more than you think.
Okay, that's wild. Any other examples of this in action?
Oh, tons. Think about that person who's always chasing the next promotion, the bigger house, the fancy car.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Exactly. They're so focused on climbing that ladder that they miss the bigger picture.
What do you mean?
They don't see the systemic issues that are keeping folks trapped at the bottom.
Ah, they're too busy looking up.
They might even think those folks are lazy or don't deserve help, which just reinforces the problem.
It's like a vicious cycle.
It is. And what's crazy is they're aspiring to be part of the bourgeoisie, even though for most folks it's just not realistic.
So they're buying into this idea that's ultimately working against them.
It's that aspirational aspect that makes the petite bourgeoisie so fascinating and kind of dangerous.
Dangerous? How so?
They're not the ones at the very top, but they act as a buffer, upholding the status quo even when it's not in their best interest.
Okay, so this is bigger than just individual choices, then.
Oh, much bigger.
Yeah.
By understanding this petite bourgeoisie mindset, we can see how individual beliefs, even seemingly small choices, contribute to these huge societal patterns.
It's like a domino effect.
Exactly. And that's the real power of this concept. It's not about labeling people. It's about recognizing the interplay between beliefs, economic realities, and the systems we live in.
It's about seeing how the system works, even the parts that are kind of hidden.
And how we might be unintentionally participating in it.
Whoa. Okay, that's heavy stuff.
It is. But it's also empowering because once you see it, you can start to question it.
You can make different choices.
Exactly. More conscious choices about where you stand, what you believe in, how you want to show up in the world.
So knowledge is power, basically.
You got it. And in this case, knowledge about the petite bourgeoisie, all these subtle dynamics, it's a tool for understanding and maybe even challenging the systems that shape our lives.
So where do we go from here? Now that we've kind of peeled back the layers of this petite bourgeoisie thing, how do we actually use this knowledge to, make a difference?
The big question, right?
Billion-dollar question.
I think it all starts with awareness. The more people understand these dynamics, the better we can have those, like, real, honest conversations about the stuff we're facing as a society.
It's like you were saying before, having that extra lens to see past the surface and spot how these beliefs, these behaviors are shaping the world around us.
Exactly.
Once we've got that awareness, then what?
Well, then we can start challenging those narratives that are just, like, fueling inequality.
Calling them out.
Right. Starting to ask the tough questions like, why are some policies so popular? Who's really benefiting and who's getting left in the dust?
It's like that example with the farmhand accepting a low wage, even though he deserved more. Seems like recognizing that petite bourgeoisie mindset in ourselves and others, that's got to be step one.
Couldn't agree more. It's about getting real with ourselves, admitting the ways we might be upholding the system, even without meaning to.
Yeah, because sometimes we're part of the problem without even realizing it.
Exactly. And then having the guts to call it out when we see it in others.
Those tough conversations, right?
Okay.
Even when they make us question our own worldview, make us uncomfortable.
Exactly. And being open to hearing from folks who have totally different experiences than us.
Yeah, because everyone's got their own story.
Understanding the perspectives of the people who are really feeling the effects of these dynamics, that's crucial.
You know what's hitting me now? This isn't just about those big social movements or protests or whatever.
Right.
This applies to, like, everyday life, too.
Oh, absolutely. Your workplace, your community, even online, like on social media. You see people downplaying their needs or siding with those in power, even when it makes no sense for them.
It's everywhere once you start looking for it.
It is.
Yeah.
And spotting those patterns in our day-to-day, that's how we start making real change happen.
So, speaking up when something ain't right, supporting those, fighting for equality, making choices that actually reflect your values.
That's it.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
And remember, this isn't about pointing fingers or playing the blame game.
Right.
We're all part of this big, messy system, and we all got to do our part to make it better.
Well said.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into the petite bourgeoisie.
Ooh, yeah, it's been a journey.
It has.
I want to leave folks with this thought. Don't be afraid to question the stories you've been told. Challenge your own assumptions and have those tough conversations, even when they're awkward.
Sometimes those are the most important conversations to have.
Understand this petite bourgeoisie concept. It's just one piece of the puzzle, but it's a powerful one. It helps us see the forces that are shaping our world.
And once we see them, we can start building a world that's more just, more fair for everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those questions coming.